In this episode, we speak with Andrew Adams, co-founder and managing partner of Oak HCFT, one of the leading growth investment firms with $5.3 billion in assets under management. Founded in 2014, the firm invests in companies driving transformation in healthcare and fintech, two uniquely complementary and high-growth sectors. With deep domain expertise and strategic resources, the firm partners with leading entrepreneurs at every stage, from seed to growth, to build businesses that make a measurable, lasting impact on these industries. Before founding Oak HCFT, Andrew spent 15 years, primarily at Oak Investment Partners, investing in early and growth stage companies. During the over 25 years Andrew has spent investing in leading healthcare companies, he has had 35 exits, including 6 IPOs. I'm your host, RJ Lumba. We hope you enjoy the show. If you like the episode, click to follow.
RJ Lumba is the managing partner of Growth Cap and the executive chairman of Market Insight Media. He is the host of Growth Investor, a podcast featuring today's best investors, executives, and founders. In the minutes ahead, we'll uncover insights and strategies for accelerating growth and succeeding in business.
Andrew, thank you for taking the time to chat with us today. It's a delight to be with you.
Likewise. Thank you for having me.
So I have a lot of questions for you, and I was wondering where to start because there's a lot of interesting things about your background as well as the firm. Maybe we'll start off with choosing a name for the firm that is so directly tied to the sectors that you invest in. So presumably you felt these are the sectors we're going to focus on for the life of our existence.
That's right. Well, it's an astute observation. It is in the name. My longtime partner, Ian Lamont, and I co-founded the firm in 2014. And prior to that, our predecessor firm had Oak in the name. So in the entrepreneurial community, and certainly in our two ecosystems of healthcare and fintech, we like that continuity. We have a lot of continuity in our partnership amongst the two of us. We have continuity in the team we've built, and we certainly like to have that brand continuity in the market. We've also been in these two categories for now 2.5 decades. So it's been a long time in these areas, but these are massive markets. You think about almost 50% of GDP, 20% of US, a significant portion of global GDP on the fintech basis. You can have multi-decade investment opportunities in these two segments. So to your earlier point about having this kind of imprinted on our door forever, there's just endless amount of runway in both healthcare and fintech. And so we're always confident we're going to find new opportunities, particularly just given the breadth now having backed, well over 150 companies in healthcare and fintech over that period of time. We've just got a tremendous base of knowledge and depth in the industry to think about where we want to go next in these two industries.
And we'll come back to talking about the firm and some of the areas you focus on. But from more of a personal standpoint, you mentioned something in your background in that you grew up on a farm. I always find that really interesting because I've interviewed others who've had similar backgrounds and they think it was instrumental to them kind of becoming who they are today.
Absolutely. I mean, just on a fundamental basis, it certainly teaches you the value of hard work. And you can see right there in front of you, from the planting to the harvest, the payoff of that hard work and just seeing something grow and evolve and lead to a fruitful outcome, no pun intended there. But it was, looking back, it was just a formative time in my life. And I think the other element of growing up in that rural environment was, if I put my healthcare hat on, it shows you the importance of access to healthcare. And I was fortunate to live in a town where we had a tremendous hospital system, Scott and White, that's now Baylor Scott and White, one of the largest nonprofit healthcare systems in the country. And so I had access to high quality healthcare, even though I was in that rural environment. It's something that has certainly made an impression on me. And it's top of mind as we think about our healthcare strategy and how we impact as many Americans as possible as we grow these companies.
And now thinking about the founding of the firm, it's been in existence now for about a decade. How did you come to the decision to team up with Annie and then make a new start? It's sort of an entrepreneurial endeavor.
Right. Well, Annie had founded the healthcare practice in the early 80s at our predecessor firm and then was kicking off the fintech practice around the time where I joined. So it was a small team, going from kind of one to two on the healthcare side, and then also spent time on fintech as well back then. And there was a strong set of relationships and track record that was developed from the early 2000s to 2014 when we spun out. And those relationships were important not only from a track record perspective, if you think about raising a new fund, but those are the relationships that lead to the next opportunity. We have a very high percentage of our opportunities that are repeat entrepreneurs, if you will, relationships where we've been an investor, a partner, company has grown up, gone public, was acquired, and then those entrepreneurs come back to us with their next idea, and we're enthusiastic to partner again. So that's just the power of being in these categories for a long period of time to have that flywheel. Also, those experiences are what influences where we're deploying capital in the future. So these are regulated markets, they're complicated. And so you have to have that depth to be successful over the long term. But that kind of foundational body of work from the early 2000s to 2014, like that was what helped us launch Fund One successfully in 14.
And when you were thinking about starting the firm, were there big ideas or differences in how you would build a firm versus the firm you came from?
Absolutely. One was building a deep and broad team. So we saw these two tremendous markets ahead of us, these multi-decade market opportunities, but there were just a few of us in those early days at the predecessor firm. So we know we needed to go broader and deeper. And we immediately started building out our team even prior to the launch of Fund One. And those individuals, like our first two hires, are still with us today and have progressed within the organization. And we like to bring in folks at different stages in their careers. There are folks that have joined us as an associate that are a partner now. So we really invest in the careers of people on our team. And we want them to be with us for a long time because there is so much runway in these markets and frankly at Oak as we continue to raise funds and get larger and broader. But step one was really, and a major difference was just investing in a team. And now we've got 45 individuals focused on healthcare and fintech. And it just gives us so much more breadth and depth as we're looking for new opportunities and supporting our entrepreneurs.
And aside from the distinct focus on those two sectors, broadly speaking, what differences do you like to point out to entrepreneurs about partnering with your firm versus others?
Well, we start with just the continuity of the team and the experiences that we've had over a long period of time. So that's something that other tenured investors can point to. I think what sets us apart is we can point to that in healthcare and fintech. We're not a multi-stage, multi-domain fund. We're a healthcare fintech investor. And we've done that in the United States in healthcare. We've done that globally in fintech. So there's just a lot of tangible experiences that we can point to new entrepreneurs on how we've been supportive of companies. So we bring kind of that experience. We certainly bring a very specific network of relationships. So the vast majority of our companies serve large enterprises, whether that's a managed care company or a bank or an insurance company or a large healthcare system. So we have those relationships on a commercial level that can certainly help the company scale. And then we have it on a strategic level because those are likely acquirers for our companies. So we just have done this many, many times in terms of like just commercial scaling and then strategic exit in addition to some IPOs that I think is additive when an entrepreneur thinks about like, what do I need to grow a company? And then the last thing I would point to is just talent. I mean, talent's everything. It's what gets us excited about a new opportunity. We know it's a key ingredient to scaling because if you think about when we get involved, we're expecting these companies to 5x, 10x, and that will require additional human capital, expertise, experiences on the executive level, but also throughout the organization. And we want to be a significant part of driving that, sourcing that talent, adding that talent, and then supporting that talent as these companies grow.
Is building a firm harder than building your career at another firm?
It's a great question. You really have to think about, at least from my perspective, time allocation. And you have to be excited about building your own team and also supporting the building of teams at the portfolio company levels. I think it's been a great learning experience for me personally. And I know for Annie, because while we're not a healthcare or fintech company, we are a small business, if you will. We have 50 employees. We want to operate in the cloud. We want to do things efficiently. We want to do things effectively. We want to have successful results. And so I can certainly understand where entrepreneurs come from a little bit better, having done this on the operating side. But the exciting part for us as well is just seeing a team come in and just grow and helping to support that and making sure we've got a platform for people to just go and be as successful as they possibly can. And that's why we're very focused on a team-based approach. So certainly Andy and I are the leaders of the firm. We like to have a very collaborative culture where we're going to win and we're going to succeed as a team together. And when things get challenging, we're all going to pitch in on that. So that has been incredibly rewarding. I think that's just, you have to allocate time and focus and energy and embrace that versus if you're in another firm where you're focused on kind of the deal side. But I bet that 30% or whatever percentage of the time we're spending building our firm, maybe at a large firm, you're spending that time thinking about internal politics. And like, that's wasted time, but that's just a fact. So I'd much rather have what we have than the alternative.
Hmm. And what is currently your biggest challenge in building or scaling your firm, and how has it changed since the beginning?
Well, I think what helps us a lot is just having a core nucleus of folks around the team to build from, because that really de-risks future hiring. The challenge and the opportunity is always ensuring that as folks are in the Oak organization, supporting entrepreneurs, looking for new opportunities, just interacting with co-investors and folks in the industry, is that we have a very consistent experience. Everybody's gonna have their own style. We like to have diverse perspectives. We want everyone to come as they are, and fit within our organization. But it's important to us that at the end of the day, the entrepreneur and the co-investor, the large enterprise, has a very consistent experience with us. Like, there is an Oak way, and we're going to do it the right way, high integrity, straightforward, upfront, do whatever we can to support. I mean, there's just these central tenets. So I think that's an opportunity, but you could say that's a challenge, is to ensure we have that consistency against the mission as we continue to scale. Like, we will get larger, we will have more people, we will raise more funds. And so, that's something that I'm always keeping an eye out on.
Are there strategies you put to work in regards to ensuring you cultivate the right culture?
At this point, I feel like the culture has got a life of its own, because in the early days, there were a few culture carriers, if you will, because we were setting the pace. And now we have an organization that is a culture carrier for Oak. And so, I love that. That's incredibly satisfying to see. I think it's a real asset of the firm. But that's really a key. And part of that is also just having a very kind of open and transparent dialogue. So it's something we talk a lot about as a firm is intellectual honesty. Like, we want everyone to feel like we're in this together. And like, it's not about like, we're going to do this many healthcare deals or this many fintech. It's like, we're going to do the best opportunity of the firm. We have the depth to do it all. We're going to do some early stage startups. We're going to do some buyouts. We're going to do some growth deals. Like, it is really best opportunity, regardless of stage or category, that is going to be something that we want to support. And so I think that's really the key. And just having a lot of transparent dialogue about that is incredibly important. And, we have to communicate well what worked and what didn't. And, either Annie or I, something doesn't go quite right. Like, we've just got to openly communicate that, and like, how we're going to change that going forward. And so I think that gets the team, it kind of disarms the conversation to like have a constructive dialogue about how we move forward and continue improving it as an organization.
Given your longevity in the investment field, and likely you've met a lot of people, a lot of other investors, peers in the industry, have you come across folks where within a very short period of time, you said, wow, that's a person that I'd love to hire, or that's a person, I'd love to work with or become like? And then what are those characteristics if you have met such a person?
Yeah, I think what we try and do is we either try and hire them or we try and back them, depending on where the opportunity is. I think what works for us is, we have to have kind of a team player, but folks that are very self-motivated, like a self-starter. So you kind of just assume that the integrity is there, the EQ is there, the IQ is there, that it's like team play, proactive, and, hustle, and a problem-solving mentality. I think what's not constructive, whether this is a co-investor or an entrepreneur, I wouldn't say it really even happens at the firm, is, things don't always work out. It's not up and to the right. Like, we know that. We've been around plenty of times. And it's like, so what do you do in that moment? And finger pointing and blaming, that's not constructive. I think we want that call, in the context of a portfolio company, like we want that call immediately. And we just flip into as a team into kind of problem solving mode, not, getting into some sort of, argument or again, finger pointing or blame game. So I think people that have that approach, that's what resonates with us. And then you kind of put the subject matter depth and an appreciation, in particular in healthcare and fintech, that these are regulated markets. They are complicated. There's not really a shortcut. Like you have to respect the frameworks. You can build very, very large companies. These are enormous markets, but you do have to respect, whether if it's a company delivering patient care, like patient care, high quality patient care is a number one, and then the business model comes after that. So, those are kind of now I'm getting into kind of the next cut of things we look for, but the earlier fundamentals that I mentioned, that's where we start.
Given the complexity of the markets and situations you enter, I imagine the role you play in any given company can change depending on what they actually need. But maybe for the benefit of our audience, can you share a little bit about the roles you've played with certain companies you've invested in and how you've added value beyond, financial capital?
Sure. I mean, there is a wide range of examples, but if I were to categorize it, you could think about coming into an earlier stage company where we have a great entrepreneur, but a team needs to be built. That is where we would plug in with our network of relationships and start kind of wholesale building a management team that was built for success against the company objectives. So that's one way we certainly support. There's going to be a lot of functional need, whether that's refining go to market, whether that's on the tech build, given how prevalent the discussion around AI is and the applications in both healthcare and fintech. That's another area where we bring in expertise. And it's not only expertise out of our team or our advisors or our venture partners, but it's also the crosstalk amongst our portfolio. Like that's the power of having a very cohesive portfolio, is the interactions amongst the management teams and amongst the executives is very powerful. So for example, we have in the healthcare side, we have over a dozen value-based companies. So how do you contract? How do you set up the clinical models? How do you think about data analytics? How do you build a care management program? Like those are all super tactical questions that companies encounter, but you can really short circuit a lot of time in those learnings as we weigh in with our experiences and have our portfolio companies talk. And then we can bring in talent that can execute, the go-to-market plan. So it's really a multifaceted support, but it's the payoff of these cohesive markets. And then certainly there's the things that come along. So, recently there was a hack of a company, Change Healthcare, that was, a single point of failure, or at least on the revenue cycle side for a lot of healthcare companies. That's where in that moment you can have a lot of immediate crosstalk amongst our team, our portfolio companies to solve problems. And then I think there's moments in time where a company wants to go to a new geography. So we've had a number of ex-US companies, particularly on fintech, that want to grow in the United States. And so kind of the export of that technical know-how, those solutions and how it's commercialized in other geographies, that's something where, our team and our set of relationships, and again, a cohesive portfolio can really help a company grow faster.
One thing I noticed that was unique was that you released a report on social impact. To what degree does social impact or the desire to have social impact play into the work you do?
It's something that's been top of mind for us since inception. I mean, that report talks about our D&I initiatives, what the representation is within the firm, which has all been kind of day one. I think whether we're talking about the firm, our approach with portfolio companies, our strategy, a lot of that report was simply capturing what we've been doing now for many decades. So it's not like we felt like there was an external pressure that was causing us to kind of create an effort. It was really presenting the facts, which is kind of what you get at Oak. We are pretty straightforward. We're trying to be a low ego supportive group here, but we're confident that we walk the walk. So when we put out that report, like this is who Oak is. This isn't something that's manufactured. It's not something where we're picking a few spots within the portfolio. Like this is who the firm is. I mean, if you just think about like fundamentally, what are we excited about? we are excited about building healthcare companies that create better access, better care, and doing it at a lower cost. And in fintech, it's access to financial products and doing that globally for a broader population and overall driving down administrative efficiency. You drive down administrative waste in both healthcare and fintech. Those are resources that can get deployed against growth and things that can positively impact either patients on the healthcare side or consumers on the fintech side. So, it's really just who we are. We are proud to do it. And the next thing for us is to take that as a baseline and then improve.
We're heading into the tail end of the conversation. I have two questions that I like to end with, and then I'm going to tack on a bonus question. But the first question is, can you tell us about a person who has had a profound influence on you?
Well, if I think about that professionally, it's got to be my partner, Annie Lamont. That's easy. We've worked together for a long time, and we've seen a lot out there on the portfolio companies and in the markets, and it's just been an incredible professional partnership that has been incredibly impactful on certainly on my career, on my life, and it's kind of hard to describe that for whether you're an entrepreneur or an investor or even folks at our firm, but just having the strength of that relationship as a foundational element of the firm just allows us to go faster, to be more productive, to be just focused. And, it's been tremendous.
Second question, can you tell us about a charity, cause, or other endeavor that you're passionate about?
I spent a lot of time, certainly on the healthcare side, and a lot of what we do is, what I mentioned around impact. I think personally, from a charitable side, it's a variety of causes on a local level and very oriented around education. Education is something that has certainly played an important part of my life as I think about where I grew up and where my career has taken me. Education has been an important part of that. It's an important part of our family. My wife is a teacher. And so we think about education and the power of education, but also making sure that it's a broad application across, folks in different environments and with different backgrounds. And so that, generally speaking, is something that we're quite passionate about.
And then the bonus question, this is the first time I'm trying this one, but can you tell us about a hobby or pastime, something you like to do to relax, but it's something that you look forward to and would do more of if you had the time?
Well, I can't believe I'm going to say this because even though I grew up on a farm, I was a reluctant junior farmer as a young child. But I will say there is something about going back to the farm, the family farm that's been in our family now for generations, actually over a century. So it's something that's near and dear to my heart, the family's heart. And so getting back on the farm, it's just something that it is relaxing. And it's something that's deeply ingrained in, I think, who I am and what my family is. And so, yeah, I would say farming. I wouldn't say it's a hobby because I don't have a lot of time for it these days, but it is something that whenever I'm back down there, it is something that I certainly embrace and cherish.
Fantastic. Well, Andrew, I want to thank you for taking the time. This has been a wonderful conversation.
Thank you.